Hi, good morning, friend. In today's session, we see about the Java Spring Boot framework at the basic. This is the series, and this session is the first part of our session. So Java Spring Boot, everyone know about till now. What we see that Java is a programming language, and through that we can write the code for an enterprise application and web applications. Okay, so Java, if you want to write a code in a Java, there is lot of stuff you need to do, like a Tomcat, and you need to build application deploy into Tomcat. All the configuration things are you need to write that code, like connection, everything, like connection manager, get connection manager, all the transaction you need to handle. So as the time goes, people get to know that these are the redundant code, and every time I'm writing that code. So some people build like as a Spring application, Spring as a framework. So these Spring provide you way to configure, means just just go into application property, put your database name, username, password, and your Java code. If you write @transactional the database connection you will get. So this is the ease of use of a framework. So no need to handle the transaction. Okay, I need to start the transaction, commit the transaction, or roll back the transaction. Whatever transaction related activity are happen, that take care by the Spring. Okay, that's the first evaluation happen in after the Java. There are in between there are multiple frameworks, but Spring is a very famous framework. So that's why I'm saying this is the first evaluation in a framework where we are getting to very less code need to write. But after that, Spring Boot framework came. Okay, Spring Boot also a framework which built on a Spring on the top of a Spring framework, but this is a specially built for the REST API. Okay, so as an end user, if you want to build a REST API, then this is the best framework, because here you just don't need to write a 5 to 10 lines and your controller is ready, or your REST API is ready. Everything is inbuilt. Even Tomcat or whatever application you are deploying your application, that application server are implicitly came with your application. So only these lines need to write, means business logic. Here we get more leverage or very faster development. That's why right now Spring Boot is in a boom, because everyone using that. Everyone want to faster development. I want to only write my business logic, not the configuration things and all. So yeah, this is the basic about means evaluation like Java, Spring and Spring Boot, and basic idea you get to know what is the Spring Boot and why currently it is famous. As per the definition, Spring Boot is an open source Java based framework which we already discussed, used to create a microservices. Okay, what is mean by microservices? Suppose earlier we have one application, and in application there are 1, 2, 3, 4 modules. Okay, this is a monolithic application, and monolithic application combine of all the small modules. Okay, and every module required 4 databases. So consider these are the 4 databases. So right now in your monolithic application, if you check, you have these 4 modules and a 4 database, and one module required the high load, 2 is not high load, 3 is not high, means QPS sensitive, and 4th is also very QPS sensitive. But for the 1 and 4 are the sensitive application, QPS sensitive application, and 3 or 4 are normal application. So we need to scale whole the service. Means suppose if I want to build a 5 instance of the service, so 2 and 3 are wastage out of that. But in the microservices, 1, 2, 3 and 4 are the individual services, microservices, and each have their different database. Okay, each one have their different databases. So, and as per the requirement, you can scale this as a 10 instance. This instance only 2 instances is required. This instance 3 instances required. This again 15 instances is required. So based upon the requirement, you can scale your application, and database also scale. So this is the advantage you will get in a microservices. In a monolithic, everything is in one package. But here, all the small modules or independent things we are bundling inside the microservices and scaling as per our requirement. Next, standalone and production ready application. Just I discussed, like in 5 to 10 line you can write your own controller, and it's easy to ship on production. That's the main advantages we are getting. When we are writing code into Spring Boot, we shouldn't bother which application or a web server we are using, because in application property you just need to mention your context, means application name and a port, and when you start your application, by default on that port your application will get started, and if you hit from the browser you will get the result. We have that demo in the next couple of sessions, so you will get that easily. Okay, why we already discussed why this is Spring Boot is famous, because flexible way of configuration. Like earlier XML configuration are there, database configuration need to maintain, and configuration things also need to maintain. So it's most of the things are handled implicitly, and somewhere user input is required. There are very easy way to integrate, like database connection you just need to mention in application property. No need to different configuration files and all. In earlier Spring, Hibernate is one file, Spring application is a one file, customer or validation is another, OAuth2 is a different file. So that's the way. Powerful batch processing and managing REST endpoint. So Spring Boot provides the Spring Batch also is a one framework where batch processing, the batch processing is provided, and Spring Boot provided for the REST endpoints. Auto completion is there. We discussed, just download and run it. It automatically configured. Annotation by the Spring application. We will discuss more about what are annotation provided, but most of the things are we can control through the annotation. No need to write a configuration files and all. Ease to dependency management. In a pom.xml, you just mention whatever version or whatever dependency you want, the sub dependency, and relatively the independent means one dependency is dependent on another, that already implicitly take care by Spring Boot, so no need to worry about that. Embedded servlet container, we check about that. Tomcat is by default Tomcat you can mention, but there are multiple options you will get while configuring that. Basic annotation, like when we go on a springinitializer.com and down select your package project name and the languages and basic packages whatever you require, combine all together, and if you hit the generate button, one zip file you will provide it. That zip file, unzip that and open into Eclipse. You will get to know all the things are there, and there is a one class which is a Spring application runner class, and in that class you will get to know personalization, enable auto completion, all the completion done by Spring Boot for you, for on behalf of you. Spring Boot application means Spring get to know this is your starting point of your application. Okay, start point of your application, and components can, it's implicitly of the Spring Boot application, but if you additionally if you have certain certain package name where Spring can create the object and provide through the application, you can mention that com dot package dot something abc. So Spring go started creating object from this package, and whenever you auto-wire your class, it directly imported that table. So even in a Spring Boot, you no need to create the object. Spring and Spring Boot both are taking care to create the object. Yeah, that's the leverage this framework provided to us to do faster development and all. Okay, we discuss about the Spring and Spring Boot, so I think most of the basic things are clear for you. We simply just check how the request flows and what is architecture implicit at a Spring Boot level, not at our application level. Consider this is a web browser, and web browser hit the request, or web browser or your client, or this is your postman. So anything which is outside the world hitting or calling our application, which is through the HTTP request, that request receive on a controller get that call, controller transfer parse that request and parse to the service layer which we return, and service layer connect like a CURD operation. If CURD is there, it depends in this is a JPA kind of framework, which is a database connecting with the database. This if there is a service database layer call, we directly call CURD services, and there are the operation which you need to cast into model, and through the model we are hitting into database that are directly saving and receiving the data from this way, and we are pushing a result, whatever processed result, to the outside the world. Yeah, this is the basic thing, means client, controller, service layer, another if there is a extending CURD services from outside the world. If there is not, then is it implicitly model, and model connect with the database and provide the service layer. Okay, earlier in example we talk about the first model, second model, and third and fourth model. So each model have this own database. Okay, but suppose at a first service, while processing, some data is required from first, so he will connect with the first database through the application. Fourth application provides the one endpoint to the A application. A module call that at a fourth level, and fourth API hit to database, collect the data and provide the result. One cannot, as per the microservices guidelines, A cannot connect to the directly with the fourth database. If you do that, that become a monolithic application, because in a monolithic application, our application is already connected to the fourth database, and we want to remove that. We want to make a smallest piece of our application, which is a microservice, means microservice, small start. So whatever dependent on the first database, we are segregating that and maintaining it as a service and scale as per our requirement, because suppose this is highly used application, so we'll make 100 node, but if no one using or no one bother about the very less QPS on that server, then we are happy with the 3 instance or a 5 instance. Okay, that's the basic behind the microservices and architecture. Like one service expose the API, and this API called by the another service. No direct DB to DB call will happen in this architecture. Okay, that's the architecture. And at a layer, while if you check, this is consider this is as a controller layer. Okay, controller, you will receive first, you will do authentication, and whatever post body or put body or get, you are transferring that request to the JSON, and JSON to the, here you are receiving JSON or whatever you are saying JSON or consume JSON or consume XML. All that data you are converting into DTO or DAO, that layer, and then passing this information into business layer. Okay, this is a service. Okay, business layer logic we are writing in a service. So in a service, business logic validation and authorization is done, take care at a service layer, and the persistent layer is the store layer, means this is the DAO layer. Okay, in a DAO layer you are storing your data, so whatever beans and repository you are created, that came into this place, and at a database layer, this is the actual database layer like MySQL or anything. So these are the basic layers in a Spring Boot application. Yeah, in today's section we covered about the why Spring Boot, what is use of Spring Boot application, architecture, presentation layer. Yeah, so multiple people get to confuse about, okay, Spring is already there, why we are switching over Spring Boot, and is it really worth, or all the things. For those blocks we just cover when to choose a Spring and when to choose a Spring Boot. Okay, you are writing a Java Enterprise Edition applications, that time you choose the Spring Boot, but you know that only REST APIs is required, so then move with the REST API. The aim is to JE implement and aim is to the shorten code length and provide easiest way to develop a web application or a REST application. These are the basic difference between when to choose a Spring and a Spring Boot. Apart from that, Spring provide the dependency injection, and Spring Boot provided additional, that means it provide dependency injection. Apart from auto compression, automatically class are configured with default compression. If you want to change, you can do that, but yeah, Spring provide dependency injection and Spring Boot provide the auto compression. Spring is a loosely coupled application, and means everything is there, whatever part you want you just pick that. And Spring Boot is an application, means when we want to build a standalone applications, like already we discussed one monolithic application and we want to break into 4 small applications or services, that time Spring Boot is very good option to use that. The developer need to write a lot of codes because everything is in a place, you just club together and configure in a Spring. But that is a Spring, because Spring is a enterprise application, because lot of tools are there, whatever you require just club together and configure that. That's why the compression code need to write. But in a Spring Boot there is a no need to write, because everything is ready. We know the end intent. If you want to only implement web application, REST application, that time only you are going with the Spring Boot. So auto completion is there. We need to set Spring application server is required to, we need to build our application and add the server. But in a Spring Boot, all the like Tomcat, JT, or whatever server you want, you get automatically ingested in your package. Export is a jar, so you can directly run that jar on, or by default it run on a Tomcat. It does not provide so Spring application, it does not provide the in-memory databases. Means you require one tool and you will the libraries and you will get to know. But Spring Boot implicitly provide the in-memory database connection, like such as a S2 database or other databases. These are, and apart from that, means manually define the pom.xml, because whatever required, we know. And enterprise edition, there are a lot of tools we need to import. So pom.xml we need to define and we need to maintain. But in a Spring Boot application, it internally take care, like pom.xml, and it take cares, and all the stuffs are automatically. If you import one thing which you want, all the dependent package get inserted, and exclude thing, all the things are auto taken in a Spring Boot. So yeah, if you want to ease your life in the REST application and web application development, you can I think you can prefer to use a Spring Boot as a framework. Yeah, that's his upcoming section. We see what are the what are the annotations, how to use that. If you want to start your application, first application, what are the steps, means go on a Spring initializer, whatever I discussed earlier. So all that through the pictorial format or a live demo, we go and do that. Yeah, that's it for today's session. We see how it goes, and we'll get more knowledge on Spring Boot and microservices. Yeah, thanks.